Hi, my name's Anna Lockwood and I'm an analyst with AHDB Cereals and Oilseeds. I'm here today to give you a quick update about global wheat and UK prices, and also then to move on and take a look at EU crop areas for harvest 2016. So let's begin by taking a look at global wheat prices and what's been happening recently. You can see on the chart we've got the Chicago wheat price, the UK wheat price and the French wheat price, which is the nearby futures price plotted. You can see recently prices have been slightly horizontal as well as being slightly downward more recently. Now prices are still being weighed down by this large global supply from this season as well as carryover stocks from last season. Moreover, looking more closely at the EU, more recently we've had really good planting conditions and crop condition reports from France. Now this has really given the market more confidence that production is likely to be large again next year. Also looking at wheat exports from the EU, after a slow start to the season, they slightly picked up last week. There's been more demand globally. We've had more exports going out to Egypt last week. Although this is happening, we have still got a fair way to go. Total exports so far this season only equate to 31% of the total export forecasts. So we've still got a fair way to go from that point of view. So now moving on and looking slightly more at UK prices. We've got on this chart here, you can see UK feed wheat price and the UK full spec milling wheat price. You can see that recently again, as we've just discussed with global prices and have you seen against the other prices, the UK price is fairly horizontal. You can also see from the chart that the milling wheat premium has been shrinking more recently. As at the 26th of November, last Friday, the milling wheat premium was £13.80 above the feed wheat price. Now what's really important to remember is it's not just the milling wheat premium that's coming down. The whole wheat complex is being dragged down by this low maize price, which is also being weighed down by large stocks, large production. Another factor that's currently affecting the market is this forward price carry. Prices into November 2017 are around £130 a tonne, way above the nearby price that we're currently experiencing. Now this again is really not giving any incentive for farmers to sell and creating more demand for storage and more of an incentive to store rather than to sell and help shift the surplus that we're experiencing. So now we're going to take a look at the EU wheat area forecast for harvest 2016. We've got plotted on the chart the main producing regions, the UK, Poland, Romania, France and Germany. So if we begin by looking at France, early forecasts are suggesting that the wheat area is likely to decline slightly by around 1% to 5.12 million hectares for harvest 2016. Now, despite this decline, with planting going well, with the best crop conditions they've seen in years, better than last year, the market's confident that production levels are unlikely to be majorly affected year on year. Now if we take a look at Germany, the soft wheat area is pegged at 3.29 million hectares, which is slightly up from last year, or harvest 2015, with 3.27 million hectares was planted. Germination and early crop establishment went well in Germany. Planting was interrupted by intermittent rain in some areas. Although during October weather conditions were warm and establishment conditions then were really beneficial for the crops and development progressed well. It was also a similar situation in Romania, and here also the crop area is likely to increase slightly to around 2 million hectares for harvest 2016. Now if we take a look at Poland, conditions weren't quite as good as they were in other areas of the EU. Adverse weather conditions meant that germination was poor and often uneven in some areas. Now this led to some areas having to be replanted, which meant that establishment slightly behind in some areas. Although with this in mind, more recently the weather conditions have improved slightly which could mean that the area is resolved slightly and not too much area is lost there. Now if we take a look at the UK, results from the Anderson survey show that the UK wheat area is likely to stay fairly static year on year at 1.83 million hectares. Now this total area also includes spring wheat, which is also reported to be rising within the total. Now, although this is what early forecasts are suggesting, it's really important to remember that these crops, or some of these crops, are yet to go into the ground. So, dependent on weather and establishment conditions later on in the season, the area figures could change. Now, when we're looking at the area, although their forecasts are say fairly similar, and that's showing that yields are likely to be relied on to stay fairly high again next season in order for us not to see a large decline in production or much of a shift there. With all of the area estimates in mind, it's important to note now that yields are likely to be relied on to stay strong next season in order for us not to see a large drop in production levels. Thank you for watching, and if anyone's got any questions, please don't hesitate to get into contact via the details provided on the screen.